Shabbat Shalom. This week is a special Shabbat, known as Shabbat Hol Hamoed Pesah, the Shabbat of the intermediate days of the festival of Pesach. And instead of the regular cycle of Torah reading that we read each Shabbat, there is a special selection just for this Shabbat Hol Hamoed. But there is also something extra special that we read on the Shabbat of Hol Hamoed and Pesach, and that is a Megillah, a special scroll. There are 5 Megillot, and each one is connected to a holiday. The Megillah of Ruth is connected to Shavuot, the Megillah of Kohelet, of Ecclesiastes, to Sukkot, the Megillah of Esther, of course, to Purim, and the Megillah of Echa, of Lamentations, to Tisha B'Av. Pesach is connected to Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. This Megillah, like the Megillah of Esther, does not mention the name of God at all. In fact, Shir HaShirim is a collection of love poetry, sometimes with graphic erotic symbolism. And the question, of course, is why do we read Shir HaShirim on Pesach, which seems to have nothing to do with the story of the 10 plagues, the Exodus from Egypt, the matzah, the Passover offering, none of that. And the answer, I think, comes from the idea of Rabbi Akiva, who in the discussion as to whether or not Shir HaShirim should be included in the biblical canon, says that if all of the books of the Bible are Kodesh, if they're holy, then Shir HaShirim is Kodesh HaKodeshim. It is the Holy of Holies. And on the Shabbat of Pesach, we read Shir HaShirim because this is what Pesach really puts into play. The beginning of the relationship between God and the Jewish people that is to be as close as the best of marriages. Many of our prophets, and Jeremiah in particular, saw the period of the wilderness right after the Exodus as the time of the honeymoon between God and the Jewish people. We got married to God at Sinai, as it were. God held up Sinai as the chuppah, the Torah was the ketubah, and we wandered for a honeymoon in the wilderness. And on the Shabbat of Pesach, we remember that what the goal of Pesach is, the reason that God took us out of Egypt, was so that we could experience a love relationship, not unlike the relationship between spouses, between husband and wife, and that the intimacy that derives from the marital relationship is what we strive for in knowing and loving God. And so, as we finish up Pesach, as we come to the end of this festival that we worked so hard for and spent so much time eating our way through, let us remember that God loves us deeply and that we have the great blessing of loving God equally. I wish you all a moedim l'simcha, a chag sameach, and may this Shabbat be, as always, a Shabbat Shalom. May it be a Zisen Shabbos and a Zisen Pesach.